Hello, good day to you sitting by this side and you sitting by this other side. Anyway, don't mind me. I want to talk about something that I have noticed. As usual, I observe things in life from experiences, from movies, from reading, etc. There is the dichotomy of life, in other words, the obvious difference between two measures. But again, within this dichotomy, within this huge, vast gully of differences, there is what I want to almost term the similarity of dichotomy. And let me just put it this way, right? When you go to the village or when you observe the life of the poor, right, the people who are not imagined to have economic strength, they tend to live almost the same way that people who are at the top of the food chain live. Let me give you some examples. The people in the villages, in rural dwellings, or in the countryside, as some people call it, they tend to eat healthy foods. They tend to eat fresh foods from their farms. They tend to swim. In other words, they have a poolside or no, not a poolside though, but they have the ocean or the river by their corner. Now in the villages, they'll call it waterside, but the reality is they are still swimming. They come out and experience beach life. They eat fresh fish. They eat foods from their farms, fresh. The people at the top live almost the same way. They have access to bodies of water. Maybe it could be an ocean, with what do you call it now, a beach, or they have swimming pools. But the point is, they are swimming and they're experiencing aquatic life just the way the people in the villages are experiencing. They also eat farm fresh foods. They have access to farm fresh foods. They don't eat all these manipulated foods we eat in the middle class. The people in the villages or in rural dwellings tend to live long, just the same way those at the top of the food chain tend to live long. The people in rural dwellings tend to have tend to marry early and have their kids. They won't tend to have multiple baby mamas, if I put it that way, which is usually the experience of those at the top of the food chain. They have kids, sometimes they're not even married to the mothers. In other words, they have baby mamas or they have access to a plethora of men or a plethora of women. So if you go to your rural dwellings, if you go to your villages, if you go to the countryside, you hear that, oh, this lady has kids for this. And believe you me, among celebrities, among those at the top of the food chain, in fact, higher than celebrities, you find out that this lady has kids for this. And this man has kids with this. Right? Are they not similar? Are these not what you could term similarities of economic dichotomy? It's quite a puzzle to me because those that experience otherwise are usually at the middle, that people will term the middle class. I could almost beat my chest and say, especially if you're living in Africa, now this is probably specific to Africa. If you're living in Africa, those in the middle class tend to always have fences for their houses. They always tend to have, protection just directly linked to their houses. But those at the top live in estates, live in settlements that don't have gates. Those, especially those in the Western world, they don't have fences and all that. They don't. Now, if you go to rural dwellings, they usually have no fences, no security. They just live. Sometimes they could even leave their doors open and sleep. They just enjoy fresh air. They could come out almost half naked. just the way the people at the top come out almost half naked. Does this mean that the rules are for those in the middle? Does this mean that those in the middle are the ones suffering the most and not experiencing life to the fullest? Because while you're in the middle class and you're trying to save up money and you're trying to up your game and all that, your security man has gotten married and has kids. Your vulcanizer has gotten married and has kids. And you know the funny thing? They're content. It is almost as though at a particular phase of life, you have no needs in life. Then you start getting introduced to needs and wants and desires and frivolities. Then as you embrace those things, if you're daft enough to embrace those things, you go on a very long rat race. You keep on running in economic cycles. A few may break even and get to the top of the food chain, then that's when they will start experiencing what they were experiencing when they're at the bottom of the food chain. So you are at your village and then you could swim, you could eat fresh food, maybe farm fresh and aquatic fresh. Then you come to the city and you start having to buy those same things that you got for free or next to nothing that did not cost you much when you had no need for anything. But you are introduced to this middle class world where you start having unnecessary desires. You know, those at the top always get to say that they don't want a lot of things. They dress simply, they don't have to impress anybody. They just live their lives as naturally as possible. While you in the middle class, you are struggling to put up appearances, you're struggling to even find where you could see a body of water, like maybe a swimming pool. Certainly, you probably don't even have one in your backyard. Are there similarities in these two economic experiences? I'm just wondering, should we have just chosen to stay at the bottom of the food chain where we don't have all these needs, where we don't have all these expenses, where we are content? Or should we just, once we are introduced to this middle class life, have a laser focus and just shoot to the very top so that we can experience the life we had in the villages? I'm just thinking, and I'm probably still thinking. What do you think? Thank you.